Woo! Welcome, my friend.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to try to get a few words in here. I'm not sure I'm going to be successful, but that's always the goal. So Naveen, your story is an extraordinary one. I mean, you really came from poverty and almost nothing and came to the US and have been able to create, a fortune and build some extraordinary companies. I'd love to, it's so hard to build a business. I'd love to hear about how you think about that. And I guess also one of the things I'm really struck by is I've gotten to know your kids and your wife over the years. You have what seems to be a very extraordinary family and kids who are very driven and seem to be motivated. And a lot of times you see the next generation doesn't quite have that same fire that you have. How have you found the ability the balance to be able to go out there and build great companies and dream big and create high quality human beings as well who seem to have quite a drive?
You asked me 10 questions because he'll never get a
Now I never have to say anything for the rest of the 20 minutes. So.
No, his thinking was, not sure which one to answer first, but let's go backward. And let's just talk for a second about raising children in an affluent family. It's easy to see when we come from poverty and having that hunger and a desire to go out and do something because that's inherently what you set out to do when you come from nothing. But it's really hard when you have these children growing up in an affluent family. How do you give them the same set of obsession, same set of desire to go out and do something meaningful? And I thought that was really interesting. And I think maybe let me attack that part. And then I'm going to come back and talk about how do you go out and build amazing companies? Because it's never about having the right answer. It is about asking the different questions about when you go out and build a company. And I'm going to come back and touch on that in a second here. So let's talk about, I have 3 children. And I'm just, as a father, I'm going to just brag about them for about a minute or so. They are 29, 25, and 21. And a 29-year-old graduated from Wharton. When he was 17, he built Kairos, which is now world's largest college entrepreneurship thing. And you can Google all about him. He's in the full-page profile on Wall Street Journal, profiled in New Yorker. He's profiled in Wired magazine. He's in the cover of Inc. magazine. Ankur, A-N-K-U-R, Ankur Jain. The thing that amazing about him is, after he graduated, he started a company, sold the company, and now he's building a thing for incubator for solving the world's biggest problem: affordable housing, affordable childcare, affordable senior care. And I'm going to come back and say what it took to get that. Our daughter graduated from Stanford Mayfield Fellow, Stanford STEM Fellow, UN Ambassador for United Nations, Priyanka, P-R-I-Y-A-N-K-A. She set out to solve the problem of women empowerment. Ends up, after she graduates, works in the AI company to remove the gender bias in hiring, because that's what she cared about. Our youngest just graduated from Stanford a couple of months ago, and he became a Schwarzman Scholar. The 130 kids around the world that Steve Schwarzman sent them to Tsinghua University in Beijing to learn about the international relationship. And as a Schwarzman Scholar, as we speak, he is currently in Beijing. Right. How do we get these 3 kids to go out and do these amazing things? When they were growing up, we redefined what success meant. We told them day in, day out, and success will never be measured by how much money you have in the bank. Your success will be measured by how many lives you are able to improve while you are alive. We told them the day you know you're successful is the day you become humble, because when you have iota of arrogance left in you, you're still trying to prove something to someone else or yourself. So you become humble, you become successful. We told them that your self-esteem will never be from what you own. Your self-esteem comes from what you create. So if you own a lot and you haven't created anything, you're still a parasite on humanity, and don't ever be a parasite. Right? To us, it was never, and the problem is that we all tell our children all these amazing things that we talk about, then we go out and do something else. The children don't care what you tell them, they watch you do things. So maybe even another example. My first company that I started, with God's grace, became absolutely wildly successful beyond any imagination. Here's a guy who came to this country with absolutely nothing, $5 in my pocket, didn't speak the language. And the first company that I started at its peak was worth $40 billion. After a company took public, got out of the things, any which way you look at it, God was very kind to us. At that point, it would have been the easiest thing for me to say, I'm going to now, kids are very young, I'm going to go spend time with our children. And everybody would have said, yeah, that's the right thing to do. Now imagine, that would have been the most selfish thing for me. Now imagine from the children's perspective what they would have seen. When they go to school, they see their dad sitting on the sofa watching CNBC. They come back from school, hard work, and they see the dad sitting on the sofa watching CNBC. I tell them, you need to work hard and make something of yourself, and say, I'm going to grow up just like my dad, sitting on the sofa watching CNBC. Instead, what they saw was, dad starts a second company, didn't have to do it, but wants to solve the problem. He starts a third company and a fourth company, and the dad goes completely nuts. One day he comes home and says, we are going to go to the moon. And they all look at me and say, Dad, there's not a single private enterprise that has ever gone to the moon. It's reserved for superpowers. What makes you think you can do that? Dad does not listen. Dad goes out and starts a company with the mission, and next year, by the way, we are the only company that has permission to leave Earth orbit, only private company, and our first mission to the moon is launching next year.
This is Moon Express.
This is Moon Express, right?
Yeah, amazing.
Now, having done that, 3 years ago, Dad lost every single marble in his head. Dad says, I'm going to start a company that's going to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. Time for a family meeting. Kids are older, so kids have a family meeting, and now I'm called into this family meeting. Dad, you are 57 years old. You have done your thing. This is not the time for you to start another company. Ride into sunset, because it's a good time to leave when you are high. Dad says, young man, you have not seen nothing yet. Dad goes out and says, I'm going to start a company that's going to analyze the gut microbiome and every gene expression in the human body to reverse the chronic diseases. And they look at me and say, Dad, you know nothing about healthcare. How are you possibly ever going to do that? Nobody's going to ever do this thing, Dad. You are crazy. Dad goes and shows it can be done. And now, today, we are sitting here, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about it. We have not only done several 100,000 people that have taken the test, we can now predict the diseases before they happen. And I hate to say that. You heard about reversing chronic diseases? There is no such thing as universal healthy diet. The people tell you to eat healthy like spinach and kale and broccoli. Those are exactly the things that were causing me harm. There is no such thing. Every single person, you have to know what's happening inside you and find the thing that actually works for you. For me, spinach is bad because I cannot digest oxalic acid. Broccoli is really, really harmful because the sulfate in broccoli causes a sulfide that's causing actual damage, inflammation in my gut. I was eating chickpea and lentil too much and tofu. That is being fermented in my gut because I cannot digest, and now that's releasing ammonia that's causing inflammation. So there is no one tell you that one healthy and universal food. Remember what Hippocrates said. All diseases begin in the gut. One man's food is another man's poison. Let food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be food. So now, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to come back and talk about how do you go about starting audacious ideas. And the second question you asked was, how do you even have a startup? Great idea. How do you get them funded? I mean, because these are all the things. So it's very interesting. Anytime you want to do something that is audacious, you have to look at the problem very differently than anyone else has done. So when we were looking at the Moon Express, and people were saying, if you want to create a multi-planetary society where we want to save the humanity from potential extinction, they look at you and saying, how are you going to grow the food on the moon? If people are going to live there, do you know how to grow the food on the moon? And my answer was, that is the wrong question.